Welcome to Dreamland Sleep. My name is Alice, your host, and I will be taking you on your journey tonight. Once upon a time, in the ancient world of Greece, there was a young man named Jason. Jason was not any ordinary man. He was raised by a wise centaur, Chiron, on the slopes of Mount Pelion. Jason was the rightful heir to the throne of Colchis, but his wicked uncle, King Perilous, had stolen the throne from his father, Aeson. The kingdom was mired in corruption under Perilous' rule, and Jason was determined to reclaim his rightful place. A prophecy foretold that a man wearing one sandal would be the downfall of Perilous. One day, when Jason had reached his prime, Chiron told him it was time to claim his birthright. Chiron had raised him to be a brave, noble, and cunning man, instilling in him the virtues of kindness and integrity. Jason was prepared for the journey that awaited him. He bade farewell to his childhood home and set off to reclaim his kingdom. On his way to Colchis, he encountered a raging river. As he navigated the treacherous waters, he saw an old woman struggling against the current. Driven by compassion, Jason waded into the swift waters to save her. As he carried her across the river, he lost one of his sandals. Unbeknownst to him, the old woman was Hera, the queen of the gods in disguise. Hera had taken an interest in Jason's journey. Moved by his compassion, she decided to aid him in his quest. Hera knew that the task awaiting Jason was dangerous and filled with uncertainty, but she also recognized the greatness within him. As Jason trudged onwards with one sandal, Hera watched from Mount Olympus, her interest piqued. Jason stepped onto the worn cobblestones of Colchis, his hometown, a place he hadn't seen since childhood. His heart thumped within his chest, a rhythm of anticipation and unease. A serendipitous encounter had left him with a single sandal, fulfilling an ominous prophecy that King Perilous had been dreading. The arrival of a one-sandaled man who would usurp his throne. As he made his way into the heart of the city, he was taken aback by the sight of the royal palace. Its towering pillars were draped in verdant ivy, exuding an aura of both grandeur and foreboding. Entering the palace, he found himself face to face with King Perilous, a man he remembered only from his nightmares. "Who dares to stand in my court with but one sandal?" The king's voice echoed off the stone walls. "I am Jason, son of Aeson," he proclaimed, meeting the king's glare unflinchingly. The room grew quiet, the tension palpable. Perilous, in an attempt to rid himself of this predicted threat, set Jason a seemingly impossible task. "Bring me the Golden Fleece from Colchis, then we shall talk of thrones," he sneered. Jason, though taken aback by the enormity of the challenge, agreed. The Golden Fleece was a legendary treasure, guarded by an ever-vigilant dragon and located in the distant barbaric land of Colchis. The odds seemed insurmountable, yet Jason's resolve did not waver. With Hera's divine inspiration guiding him, Jason commissioned Argus, a renowned shipwright, to build a ship capable of withstanding the arduous journey. Athena herself blessed the construction, and the ship was christened Argo after its maker. Now came the task of assembling a crew. Jason's call to action echoed throughout Greece, reaching the ears of renowned heroes, many of whom he had admired in his youth. From the silent but fearsome Heracles with his lion skin and club, to Orpheus, whose enchanting lyre could charm the beasts and soothe the souls. The swift huntress Atalanta, a woman who had bested many men, answered his call, along with the Dioscuri, Castor and Pollux, Gemini stars incarnate. He also recruited lesser-known heroes. Zetes and Calais, sons of the north wind, joined, eager to prove their valor. The cunning Peleus, future father of Achilles, and Telamon, father of Ajax, brought their seasoned warrior skills. The sight of them all gathered at the harbour was something to behold. Each hero emanated a distinct aura, their combined might making them seem more like gods than men. Yet there was a certain humility in their eyes, a shared understanding that they were embarking on a journey that would test their mettle to its very limits. As the last of the crew boarded the Argo, Jason took a moment to look back at Iolcos. He knew that he was leaving the familiar behind, venturing into a realm fraught with danger and uncertainty. But within him, a flame had been ignited. He was not just the son of Aeson anymore. He was Jason, the leader of the Argonauts, the man who would face gods and monsters alike to reclaim his rightful place. With the rosy fingers of dawn stretching across the sky, the Argonauts set sail. Their ship cut through the sea like a blade, heading towards adventures untold, towards the quest for the Golden Fleece. Jason stood at the helm, a solitary figure against the rising sun. He was embarking on a journey that would become a legend, a tale to be passed down through the ages, an odyssey of one man and his heroic crew in the face of insurmountable odds. The harbour of Iolcos buzzed with anticipation, and the ship, Argo, rocked gently on the undulating waters. The vessel was a masterpiece, built by the skillful shipwright Argus under the divine guidance of Athena herself. Carved into its prow was a plank from the divine Dodona oak, a piece that could foretell the future, providing an invaluable resource for the crew's impending journey. As the Argonauts set sail, the crowd that had gathered at the harbour cheered, their voices echoing off the surrounding hills and out over the sea. With every stroke of the oar, Jason and his comrades moved further away from the familiar and deeper into the myth and legend that awaited them. Their first stop was the mysterious island of Lemnos, inhabited only by women after a curse had driven out all men. The queen, Hypsipyle, welcomed the Argonauts, offering them hospitality. Jason, mindful of the prophecy and eager to secure alliances, agreed to a temporary stay. The days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into a year, as the Argonauts revelled in the island's peaceful and abundant embrace. But Jason, understanding their mission's urgency, rallied his crew, and they set sail again, leaving the comfort of Lemnos behind. Next, the Argonauts came upon the Wandering Rocks, a sea hazard known to crush ships in their deadly collision. Guided by the speaking prow of the Argo, and with divine help from Athena, they navigated through the rocks, their hearts pounding as the sea churned around them. Upon reaching the land of Bithynia, they encountered a desolate sight. Phineus, a blind prophet, was tormented daily by the Harpies, winged creatures that spoiled his food before he could eat. The prophet was in a pitiful state, skeletal and feeble, seemingly on the brink of death. But the Argonauts, led by the Dioscuri, Castor and Polydeuces, drove the harpies away, freeing Phineus from his curse. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Phineus shared his wisdom, foretelling the trials the Argonauts would face on their journey to retrieve the Golden Fleece. He warned them of the Symplegades, clashing rocks that guarded the entrance to the Black Sea. The only way through was to release a dove before their approach. If the dove made it through unscathed, so too would the Argo. With Phineus's blessings and advice in mind, the Argonauts resumed their voyage. There was no turning back now. The prophecy that guided their quest had intertwined with their fate. The danger was real, the challenges overwhelming, but the hope that sprang from their shared determination was their guiding star. On the deck of the Argo, with the vast sea all around them and a clear sky overhead, the Argonauts felt an indomitable surge of energy. The Golden Fleece was waiting, the adventure had just begun, and a heroic destiny awaited them all. Though each hero held their own renowned position in Greek myth, they were now part of a larger narrative, a legendary journey led by Jason, their captain. As each day bled into night and the moon replaced the sun in the star-studded sky, their hearts beat with anticipation. Little did they know the enormity of the trials that awaited them, but with their shared courage, they pushed on, united by the quest and driven by the promise of glory. As the Argo sailed farther from their homeland, the Argonauts were not just journeying across the sea, they were navigating the uncharted waters of their destiny. And as the silhouette of the Greek lands vanished over the horizon, a new wave of realization washed over them. They had left the world they knew behind, and ahead lay a series of formidable challenges, mythical creatures, and divine interventions. They were now in the realm of the gods and heroes, and their voyage had only just begun. As the Argo slid into the glassy waters of the harbour of Colchis, its vibrant dragon figurehead gleaming in the golden sunlight, Jason's heart pounded with both anticipation and apprehension. After braving untold perils and obstacles, they had finally arrived at the kingdom reputed to hold the Golden Fleece, their desired prize. In this strange, unfamiliar land, Jason was awed by the mighty stone edifices, the opulence and grandeur that marked the prosperous city of Colchis. The people, decked in gold and jewels, spoke a language that echoed oddly in the Argonauts' ears. Their skin glowed with the sun's kiss, their eyes were bright with intelligence and strength, reflecting the proud nation they represented. A nervous energy descended on the Argonauts as they disembarked, gazing upon the foreign land with wonder and caution. With diplomacy as their guiding hand, they were welcomed into the grand palace of King Aetes. The king, draped in royal attire, his stern face marked by years of rule, greeted them with a tempered curiosity. When Jason voiced his request for the Golden Fleece, Aetes' eyes glimmered with understanding and a touch of amusement. After a tense silence, the king finally agreed to grant Jason the fleece, but with a condition that sent a shiver down the Argonauts' spines. Jason was to perform 3 tasks, each designed to test his courage, strength, and wisdom. If he succeeded, the Golden Fleece was his. If he failed, it would mean certain death. The king's voice rang out in the high vaulted hall, proclaiming the 3 impossible tasks: to yoke a pair of fire-breathing oxen and plough a field, sow dragon's teeth into the ploughed earth, and fight off the ensuing wave of earth-born warriors. While the crew grappled with this daunting challenge, a figure delicately emerged from the shadows behind the king's throne. It was Medea, the king's daughter, a princess whose reputation for sorcery was known even across the distant seas. Her raven hair cascaded over her shoulders, her eyes were a stormy sea of emotions, and her lips, though set in a calm line, were pale with worry. When she met Jason's eyes, a spark ignited, as if orchestrated by the gods themselves. Unbeknownst to the mortal spectators, Hera had called upon Aphrodite to secure Medea's help. Guided by her mother's command, Eros, the god of love, shot his golden arrow, ensuring that Medea would fall hopelessly in love with Jason. As the arrow found its mark, a profound change overcame Medea. She looked at Jason, no longer a stranger, but a man whose fate she now felt inexplicably tied to. The banquet that followed was laden with tension, as the Argonauts grappled with their dire predicament. The air was thick with the aroma of exotic foods. The haunting melody of foreign music filled the hall. But to Jason, all that was a distant haze. His thoughts centered on the impossible tasks and the captivating princess whose eyes followed him throughout the night. Later, under the secrecy of the moonlit night, Medea sought Jason. There was an ethereal beauty about her, under the silver moonlight, her eyes reflecting a potent mix of fear, desperation, and a burning love. Jason, ever the hero, was touched by her courage, her compassion. She pledged her help in completing the tasks, promising to use her formidable powers to aid him. Jason, caught between gratitude and concern, agreed to accept her assistance, marking the start of a union that would be etched into the annals of heroic lore. As dawn approached, the crew of the Argo, their hearts heavy with the weight of the tasks ahead, prepared themselves. Jason stood strong, bolstered by Medea's pledge of help. The gravity of their quest was further etched into their hearts, knowing well the risk that lay ahead. While the tasks were daunting, the arrival in Colchis marked a significant turn of events in the quest for the Golden Fleece. Unseen threads were woven, alliances formed, and a love story kindled amidst the looming shadow of the impossible tasks. As the first light of dawn bathed the kingdom, the Argonauts steeled themselves for the trials that awaited. Little did they know that their journey was just beginning. In the land of Colchis, under the watchful gaze of King Aeetes, Jason stood, flanked by the Argonauts. The king had set 3 formidable tasks for him, each more dangerous than the last. To win the Golden Fleece, Jason was to yoke a pair of fire-breathing oxen, sow the dragon's teeth in the field, and finally battle the fearsome warriors that sprouted from the earth. As dawn broke over Colchis, Jason prepared for the first task. The fire-breathing oxen were monstrous beasts, their eyes aflame with a terrifying light. Their breath singed the grass beneath their hooves, and as Jason neared them, the heat intensified. But he was not alone in his endeavour. At his side stood Medea, King Aeetes' daughter, a woman as powerful as she was beautiful, with dark eyes filled with potent magic. Touched by Eros's arrow, she had fallen for Jason, and her heart echoed with the need to aid him. She had given Jason a potion, a powerful concoction that could protect him from the oxen's fiery breath and the force of their strength. Under the protection of Medea's magic, Jason approached the oxen. He moved with precision and courage, his gaze steady. The heat was a mere warm breeze against his skin as he yoked the creatures, their fire-breathing snouts inches away from his hands. The Argonauts held their breath, the crowd gasped, but Jason stood victorious, having accomplished the first task. The second challenge was no less formidable. Jason was to sow the dragon's teeth, and from these teeth, fearsome warriors would spring forth. It seemed a task designed for failure, a deadly trap, but again, Medea intervened. She provided Jason with another potion, one that would cause the earthborn warriors to turn on each other rather than him. As Jason sowed the teeth into the fertile land of Colchis, the earth trembled beneath him. From the soil, warriors erupted, their forms glistening with an intimidating ferocity. With a speed born of desperation, Jason flung Medea's potion onto the newly formed soldiers. Confusion swept through their ranks, and they turned on each other, their blades clashing until none remained. 2 tasks completed, the crowd stood in stunned silence. Jason, the hero from distant Iolcos, had proven himself in the face of impossible odds. However, King Aeetes, his gaze a mix of grudging admiration and hardened resolve, declared the final task. Jason was to battle the remaining earthborn warriors himself. This time there was no potion, no magical intervention from Medea. This was a test of strength, skill and courage, a hero's test. As the last earthborn warriors sprang from the ground, Jason drew his sword. These were not confused men of the previous wave, they were focused, their sole purpose to end the man who had dared challenge their existence. Jason met them with equal intensity, his movements a blur as he parried, ducked, and attacked. The clash of steel rang through the air, a symphony of danger and determination. One by one, Jason defeated them, his sword swift and sure. As the last warrior fell, a cheer erupted from the crowd. The final task had been completed. Jason stood, panting, in the field of his victory. His body ached, his lungs screamed for air, but in his heart a fierce joy surged. He had done it. He had completed the tasks, proven himself worthy of the Golden Fleece. Medea ran to him, her eyes bright with pride and relief, her magic already weaving around him, soothing his pains. But as the cheers echoed around them, King Aeetes' face hardened. The king was not yet convinced. His tasks had been completed, but the Golden Fleece was still out of Jason's grasp. He had proven himself a hero, but the journey was far from over. Little did he know that the most daunting part of his quest was yet to come. The sun began to set over Colchis, washing the kingdom in hues of orange and purple. The grandeur of the palace shadowed in the approaching darkness, with its walls echoing deceit. King Aeetes, despite his earlier claims, was anything but a man of his word. He decided to break his promise, refusing to part with the Golden Fleece, and had secret plans to murder Jason and his crew. The news of this betrayal reached the Argonauts, casting a gloom over their triumphant spirits. While despair crept into the hearts of the Argonauts, there was one amongst them who refused to bow to adversity. Jason, the fearless leader, rallied his men. "Heroes," he called, "we have conquered many trials on this quest. Now we must claim what is rightfully ours." It was then that Medea, the bewitching sorceress and daughter to King Aeetes, stepped forth. Her heart had been struck by Eros's golden arrow, and it was for Jason she held a burning passion. "I shall assist you, Jason," she pledged. "Your courage has moved me, and your cause is just. Together we will steal the Golden Fleece." Under the veil of the night, they crafted a plan. Medea would lead Jason to the sacred grove where the fleece was guarded by a sleepless dragon. To overcome this seemingly impossible obstacle, Medea would use her magical powers to put the creature into a deep slumber. She prepared a potion, a blend of soporific herbs and spells that she knew would send even the most wakeful beast into the realm of dreams. As the moon ascended to its zenith, the time had come. Jason, his heart pounding in his chest, followed Medea through the labyrinthine palace, out into the cool, fragrant night. They tread softly, the whispers of their footsteps drowned by the nocturnal chorus. Before them, in a clearing bathed in silver moonlight, stood the towering dragon, its scales glistening menacingly. In its vigilance, the beast guarded the Golden Fleece, which hung on a tree behind it, radiating an ethereal glow. Medea stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as she held out the potion. The incantation spilled from her lips in an ancient tongue, the air around her crackling with enchantment. As she finished her spell, she flung the potion towards the creature. The dragon inhaled the potent brew, and its mighty body shuddered, its flaring eyes dimmed, and it finally collapsed, plunged into a sleep deeper than time. Without wasting a moment, Jason rushed towards the tree. The Golden Fleece was even more magnificent than the tales described. As he touched it, an indescribable warmth surged through him. With a sense of achievement surging through his veins, Jason unhooked the fleece, holding it up against the moonlight. It was a sight to behold, a symbol of their trials, tribulations, and triumphant defiance. Their mission was not yet over, for the alarm had been raised in the palace. Soldiers, alerted by the fallen dragon, were swarming towards the grove. In the chaos, Jason and Medea sprinted towards the Argo, the Golden Fleece in their possession. The Argonauts, upon seeing their captain return, victorious and breathless, hastily prepared to set sail. As the oars plunged into the inky sea and the Argo started to move, a cheer erupted amongst the crew, a triumphant cry in the face of looming danger. As the shores of Colchis faded into the distance, a relieved but anxious silence fell over the Argo. They had the Golden Fleece, the object of their long and treacherous journey, but at a cost that was yet unknown. The betrayals and danger they had faced in Colchis were over, but the journey back to Iolcos was still ahead. And while the seas could be merciless, Jason knew in his heart they had the strength to face what was yet to come, for they were not merely a crew, they were the Argonauts. Jason stood on the Argo's deck, feeling the warmth of the Golden Fleece wrapped securely in his hands. His heart pounded in his chest as he beheld the shimmering relic. But they were far from safe. King Aetes's rage was inescapable, and his relentless pursuit threatened their return journey. The first trial of their return journey came in the form of the bronze man, Talos. This enormous automaton, forged by Hephaestus himself, guarded the island of Crete. It circled the island thrice daily, and its piercing eyes saw the Argo approaching. Talos hurled great boulders at the ship, and his booming voice echoed across the sea, creating waves that threatened to capsize the Argo. The crew, though seasoned warriors, were in disarray. Jason turned to Medea, whose eyes were narrowed in focus. With a wave of her hand and an utterance of ancient incantations, she invoked a dark curse. Her spell caused the single vein of ichor, divine blood, in Talos to rupture. He staggered, clutching his ankle, then fell into the sea with a great splash. The Argonauts erupted in cheer, but Jason saw Medea sway with exhaustion, and he moved to support her. Even in victory, the costs were clear. Despite escaping Talos, they soon found themselves being chased by Aeetes' soldiers, who had tracked them down, led by Medea's younger brother, Apsyrtus. The Argonauts were exhausted, and a battle would surely cost them dearly. In the most heart-wrenching decision of their journey, Medea chose to betray her own blood for Jason. She tricked her brother, lured him away from his men, and killed him. In a gruesome tactic to slow her father's fleet, she dismembered Apsyrtus and scattered his parts in the sea. Aeetes, upon discovering his son's fate, ordered his men to retrieve every piece for a proper burial, giving the Argonauts time to escape. The Argonauts watched in silence as Colchis faded into the distance. A mournful aura had descended upon them. Victory had come at a grave cost, and the joy they felt upon retrieving the fleece seemed distant and hollow. Jason felt the weight of leadership pressing heavily on his shoulders. They had accomplished their task, but at what price? Their journey led them to the island of Aea, home to the powerful sorceress Circe, Medea's aunt. The smell of sweet herbs and enchantments filled the air as Circe, a striking woman with an ageless aura, welcomed them. Jason explained their journey, their triumphs and losses, and the guilt they carried. Circe was a stern woman, but she felt for the young heroes. She agreed to purify them, a necessary rite to cleanse them of their sins and to allow them to interact with the gods once more. She led them in a complex ritual, involving the burning of sacrificial offerings, incantations in the ancient tongue, and the washing of their bodies in a specially prepared sacred pool. As the rites concluded, they felt a weight lift from them, as if the fates had spun their threads anew. The stars shone a little brighter, and the breeze off the sea seemed a little sweeter. Their journey had irrevocably changed them, marked them, but they felt renewed and ready to face their final journey home. Circe offered them guidance, directing them to navigate between Scylla and Charybdis, two monstrous sea hazards, to reach their homeland. The Argonauts, though wary, were resolute. With the Golden Fleece in their possession and the gods once more on their side, they prepared to face whatever trials awaited them on their final voyage home. As Jason stood on the deck, watching his crew prepare for departure, he knew that the trials they had faced had only steeled them for the future. He gripped the railing tighter, the sea breeze tousling his hair. His eyes landed on Medea, who was silently watching the sea, a mixture of sadness and determination on her face. Tomorrow they would sail for Iolcos, and Jason, emboldened by the trials they had faced and overcome, was ready to reclaim his throne. The Argo, the famed ship carrying the victorious Argonauts, sliced through the shimmering waters towards Iolcos. With the Golden Fleece in their possession, and Medea, the sorceress of Colchis, by his side, Jason's face was aglow with a triumphant light. The completion of the formidable tasks had been a testament to his courage and resolve, and the fulfillment of the prophecy was within his grasp. On their arrival, the city of Iolcos erupted in jubilant cheers, their homecoming hailed as the return of the prodigal sons. The Golden Fleece, an artifact more legendary than any other, was held aloft, its radiance eclipsing the setting sun. Yet, the completion of their journey marked the beginning of another challenge, the dethronement of King Pelias. Pelias, who had long feared the prophecy, was unsettled by their return. His apprehension grew as he watched the city's affection turn from him to Jason, their rightful king. Seeing the writing on the wall, he attempted to negotiate with Jason, offering shared rule. But the hero, bearing in his heart the pain of exile and the burden of prophecy, refused. While Jason rallied the populace, it was Medea who devised the plan to dethrone Pelias. She promised the king a renewal of youth through her magical arts, a temptation too enticing for the aging ruler to resist. Medea then performed a demonstration, rejuvenating a ram into a lamb by cutting it into pieces, boiling it and restoring it to life. Trusting her, Pelias agreed to the ritual, only to be betrayed. As Medea started the ritual, she intentionally omitted the step of revival, leading to the king's demise. With the death of Pelias, Jason claimed his rightful place as the king of Iolcos. However, the blood-stained path to the throne left a somber mood hanging over their victory. The cost of the Golden Fleece had been high, the trials arduous, and the sacrifices many. Yet, the trials of Jason were not over. His rule over Iolcos was short-lived as the city, horrified by the brutal dethronement, exiled him. Together with Medea, they found refuge in Corinth, where they tried to build a new life. However, the shadow of their past actions followed them, and the trials they had faced were but the precursors of greater tribulations. Despite the turbulence of their lives, their story was a testament to the human spirit, the courage to face insurmountable odds, the resilience to survive, and the strength to fight for justice. Jason's life, etched in the annals of mythology, served as a reminder of the mortal struggle against destiny and the toll it exacted. In the grand tapestry of Greek mythology, Jason's journey from an exiled prince to a celebrated hero, and ultimately a doomed king, was a cautionary tale about the double-edged nature of prophecies and quests. Though he had attained the Golden Fleece, fulfilled the prophecy, and seized his rightful throne, the cost of his ambition, the relationships strained, the lives lost, and the innocents sacrificed, cast a long and sombre shadow over his victories. And so, the tale of Jason and the Argonauts concluded. However, it was but a chapter in the larger mythological narrative, a fragment of the vast, interconnected world of gods, demigods, and mortals. As the sun set on this legendary saga, the echoes of their tale lingered, a haunting melody against the crashing waves, reminding the world of the age when heroes sailed the uncharted waters, courted danger, and dared to defy fate itself.